This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Parashat Behar Bechukotai. Parashat starts off by Daber Adonai el Moshe Behar Sinai Lemor. Kadosh Baruch Hu speaks to Moshe on the mountain of Sinai, saying, and it goes through the mitzvot, Shemitah, other mitzvot that are discussed in this week's parasha, in the first parasha and the second parasha. I want to talk about Har Sinai because we have Shavuot coming up, and it's really befitting of this time that we're in right now to discuss the giving over the Torah in general and the surrounding circumstance. First thing I want to raise, issue that we should address, is something that we do every day. We say a bracha every single day. Man or a woman or even children say this bracha. Every time we go up to Sefer Torah, we say the bracha of Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim, which the bracha means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us from all the nations of the world. And He designated us, Am Yisrael, to give us the Torah. V'asher natalanu et Torato, Torah temet. We were the chosen nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We make this bracha, we attest to this fact that we are different, we're special, we're elite, we're chosen by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hand-picked, hand-selected. This bracha on its surface seems to run head-on against the Midrash. Because the Midrash seems to say a whole different story. We get from this bracha that, so to speak, everybody was running after the Torah. We want the Torah. We'll pay for the Torah. It's like an auction. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't want to give it to any of you. I'm giving it to that nation. Am Yisrael. They're the ones that I want to choose the Torah. Yet the Midrash tells us that the exact opposite is what happened. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu went to the other nations of the world, He went to, for example, Esav, the elder of the nations of the Abrahamic, societies. And He goes to Esav and He says, Esav, I have this beautiful Torah with mitzvot, 613 of them. Do you want it? It's yours. You can have it. And Esav says, wait, hold on a second. What's written in this Torah? This so-called Torah of yours, this law. Tell me one of the laws. Oh, you want one of the laws? You can't go ahead and murder. Oh, no, that's a disqualifying factor for me. Because murder is what our father promised us, Yitzchak Avinu, promised me, that I will live by the sword. So how do you want me to not murder? That's part of my nature. Forget it. I don't want the Torah. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes the Torah and rejected by Esav. He goes to the next person in line, Ishmael, and he talks to Ishmael. Maybe Ishmael, you want the Torah. Maybe you're interested in receiving the Bible, the law of God. And Ishmael says, well, what's in this Torah that I should go ahead and be interested in it? Oh, it's pretty straightforward, just like basic things like don't steal. Don't steal. Are you kidding me? You know what we got? Our bracha, v'hu yeh pere adam, the angel says, yado bakol v'yad korbo. His hand is at everything. How could I not go ahead and steal? That's my parnasah, that's my livelihood. I have to steal. I don't want the Torah. I have no interest in accepting this law. Now, never mind the fact that stealing is one of the Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach, so it kind of didn't, help him too much. But all right, he doesn't want the Torah. He rejects accepting of the Torah. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes to other nations. He goes to Moab. Moab says, what's in the Torah? It says you cannot go ahead and commit adultery, it's illicit relationships, or prohibited relationships. Moab says, how is that even possible? I came, a whole nation was born from an incestuous relationship of Lot and his daughter. We are a nation of such things. You want us to not go ahead and take our nationalistic pride and totally squash it? No, forget it. We're not interested in the Torah. So all the nations ended up rejecting the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Am Yisrael, and Baruch Hashem, Am Yisrael says, Na'aseh v'nishma. We don't need to hear what's in the Torah. It matters not what the Torah says in it. We trust you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We accept your Torah blindly without even knowing what's inside of it. And that was a praise to Am Yisrael. It certainly was. All the other nations asked, and they heard, and they rejected. Am Yisrael wasn't even going to ask. That's what makes us special. That's what makes us different. But this gives us a whole new narrative. It's a whole different story. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes to every one of the nations and it's rejected and rejected and rejected. And then Am Yisrael, fine, we'll take the Torah. Poor Torah, we had to take it. So is that the expression that you would use? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us from all the other nations to give us and single us out for the Torah? Really? None of the nations were willing to accept the Torah. We were the only nation that was accepting of the Torah. So what is this, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose to give it to Am Yisrael and rejected the other nations receiving the Torah? It's just not true based on the Midrash. And this is a bracha we say every day. Really, the Midrash, if you look at it, in Echa, the Midrash compares it. This conversation, Am Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael, had this conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Midrash says a mashal, a parable, if you had a king, and he was very upset at the queen, threw her out of the palace, and he says, you have a lot of chutzpah to be so stubborn and ignore my will and my command. And the kala, the bride, the queen, responds back, I have the chutzpah. Everyone else rejected you. I was the only one that was willing to accept you, and now you're going to go ahead and depose of me and destroy me and send me out of the palace like that. And the king responds back, that's not true. What are you talking about? I chose you. And the queen says to the king, oh yeah? So why did I find you in such and such a street, at such and such a location that no one goes to unless they're there to commit an averah? And you were rejected from that circumstance. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has this conversation with Am Yisrael. And Am Yisrael, Knesset Yisrael, based on the Midrash, stands its ground and holds, is of the position that no, we are the ones that took HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us. And again, this recurring theme, how do we go ahead and say Asher B'chabanu when it seems to be contradicting that which we find in the Torah and in the Midrashim? That's question number one. Question number two is a relatively famous question based on the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat. Talks about when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai. Moshe Rabbeinu was on a mission to bring down the Torah. And nothing was going to stop him except the angels. The Malachim were adamant that human beings should not receive the Torah. The Torah should stay in the Marom, in the Shamayim, in the heavens, and not be taught to human beings. And Moshe Rabbeinu refuses to accept that, and a trial begins. The Malachim on one side say the Torah should not be given. Moshe Rabbeinu says the Torah should be given. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, Malachim, what's your position? Our position is the Torah is so holy, is so great. Why should it be given to mere mortals? Human beings that are going to take it and pervert it and distort it and not follow it. Why should they deserve the Torah? Sounds like a valid argument. Human beings have great capacity to do evil and distort and to ruin. So Moshe Rabbeinu, what do you say back? And Moshe Rabbeinu is afraid to respond. The Malachim were not just, we imagine angels, we imagine these nice peaceful things. These were creatures that are beyond our... Seeing an angel would cause a person to faint and probably, lose consciousness. It's not a simple thing. We find by Manoach, the father of Shimshon, that we went ahead and he saw an angel and he fainted. He didn't know what to do with himself. He was so astounded with what was taking place. And that was Manoach, who was many, many years earlier than us. What are we going to say? So Moshe Rabbeinu, when he saw the angels, he was afraid to respond back to them. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'll provide you with a special protection. Don't worry, respond to them. And Moshe Rabbeinu starts going off. And what a powerful speech he gives. He speaks with such commitment and he says, what's written in this Torah? Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I am your God that has taken you out of Egypt. Were you enslaved in Egypt? Did Paro enslave you? Obviously not. How could the Torah apply to you? The Torah says in it, Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. You have to honor your father and mother. Do you have a father and mother that you have to honor? The Torah says you have to keep the Shabbat. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat. You're going to keep the Shabbat? What? Do you work during the week that you should have to keep Shabbat? The Torah says, Lo tisa Hashem mashav. It goes through the list. Do you have business dealings that you would take a false oath? Do you have jealousy in the heaven? Are you going to commit murder in the heaven? How exactly are you supposed to keep the Torah and the mitzvot? Certainly the Torah was meant for human beings, and therefore we deserve the Torah. The angels accepted the argument. It's a solid argument. And they went ahead and they said, yes, Moshe Rabbeinu is right. Not only did they accept the argument, they became very friendly with Moshe Rabbeinu as a result of the love and the bond of the intelligence of Moshe and the spirituality of Moshe, that they all gave Moshe Rabbeinu presents. It says even the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, gave Moshe Rabbeinu a present. He gave him the secret remedy. If there is a plague in Am Yisrael, how to make sure that the plague subsides, which Moshe Rabbeinu ended up using and commanding Aharon in the time of the Magifa, where people were dying left and right, 24,000 of the men of Am Yisrael were dying. Moshe Rabbeinu takes out the Machta and the plague. Well, I'm sorry, this is different. That's with Pinchas. I'm confusing. That was talking about the time of Korach, that he takes out the Machta and the plague immediately subsides, and that was a plague that Moshe Rabbeinu taught Aaron, that he learned personally from the Malach HaMavet. Okay, so that sounds like a nice story. You know, you want to tell it to first graders, second graders, that's beautiful, wow, they're probably enamored and all impressed and everything. But when you stop and think about it, I mean, does that really make sense? First of all, what is the Malachim's complaint in the first place? That the Torah should stay in the Shamayim? I have a brilliant idea. Why don't we let the human beings have the Torah, and you could also have the Torah. Everybody can have the Torah. It's good. It's good for everybody. You have it in the Shamayim, and we'll have it over here. What's the big deal? If I have a Sefer Torah in my Beit HaKnesset, so no, I don't want you to write your own Sefer Torah and have it in your Beit HaKnesset, because I want my Sefer Torah. You'll have your Sefer Torah, he'll have his Sefer Torah. What's the problem that the Malachim are saying, no, keep it in the heavens, don't give it to human beings? That's number one. Number two, what are they? Foolish? I don't understand. Moshe Rabbeinu says the most obvious point in the world. You want to keep the Torah? The angels want to keep the Torah. Are you serious? That's not a non-starter. It doesn't even begin. Moshe Rabbeinu's argument is obviously correct. That you're by attributing such an argument to the angels, you make them look like fools, and the angels are certainly no fool. That's question number 2. Okay, so far we got actually 3 questions, because the first question is Asher Bachar Banu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems to tell us that He chose us, yet we find that the exact opposite happened, that we chose HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. And the same thing is true by the angels. The angels say that the Torah should be kept in the Shamayim, and we have a problem with that. Why can't they share the Torah? What's the problem with sharing the Torah? As well as, why did they think their argument was a good and valid argument when Moshe Rabbeinu responds quite effectively to it? Third or fourth question that I would ask is based on a Gemara in Masechet Brachot. The Gemara there is quoting Rabbi Zera, and Ve'item, and some say Rabbi Chanina Bar Papa. The Gemara here compares a regular businessman to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yes, the Gemara compares and actually contrasts and says, what's the difference? Look how different HaKadosh Baruch Hu's behavior, mannerism is from the average Joe Schmo. Because the average person that goes ahead and he has a garage sale, let's say for example, he's not happy that he has to sell his antiques, his baseball mitt that was signed by Babe Ruth. He doesn't want to have to sell it, and he realized that he doesn't have any money, and he needs to go ahead and pay the mortgage. Nothing else he could do about it. He goes and he sells all of his merchandise that he doesn't need. The seller is sad. The buyer is happy, gets himself a nice, authentic signed baseball or whatever it is. He's happy. The buyer is happy. The seller is sad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Am Yisrael the Torah. He was the seller, and we were the buyer. Yet HaKadosh Baruch Hu is happy with the sale. Ki lekach tov natati lachem, torati al ta'azovu, that I gave you a good Torah, a beautiful Torah. Don't leave this Torah. So you see from the way he expresses it, that he is happy with the fact that the sale went through, that the sale was successful, unlike every other individual. And you say to yourself, what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu selling the Torah? Again, it's the same type of a problem. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu lose when he gives the Torah to Am Yisrael? When you have a seller, and he goes ahead and he gives his merchandise to a buyer, okay, the merchandise is now transferred over possession from the seller to the buyer. The seller no longer has the merchandise. Okay, now it's to the buyer. But with HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving over the Torah, does that mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have the Torah anymore? The Torah is still HaKadosh Baruch Hu's. He authored the Torah. The laws are the same. The laws don't change. They exist the same way. What does it mean that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sold the Torah to Am Yisrael? And it's as if, so to speak, HaKadosh Baruch Hu relinquished the Torah. What did he relinquish about the Torah? The Torah is still in its full force and existence. Another question is something we say in the Haggadah of Pesach. mentioned in the Dayenu, Ilu kerevanu lifnei Har Sinai. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have only brought us to Har Sinai, brought us close to the mountain, velo natan lanu na Torah, and He wouldn't have given us the Torah, that would have been enough. That would have been a great honor on its own right. Without even giving us the Torah. Velo natan lanu et Torah, that in itself is deserving of praise. And now that He gave us the Torah, oh, even more so. Basic question, what's so great about it? What's the whole point of getting to Har Sinai if not to receive the Torah? There's nothing to the coming of Har Sinai that's meaningful if not for the receiving of the Torah. Why is this an added element? You could say, well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have only taken us out of slavery and not brought us to the giving of the Torah, not have brought us to the desert, Dayenu. I get that. Okay, slavery is a bad thing. You don't want to be slaves, you want to be free. That would have been a blessing on its own. The fact that He made us His chosen nation was an even greater blessing. That makes sense. But to say, no, He would have brought us to Har Sinai, yeah, it would have been great. That would have been its, wow, what a bracha. Even if He wouldn't have given us the Torah. Really? What's special about Har Sinai without the Torah? That's the whole point of Har Sinai, is the receiving of the Torah. What exactly do we mean to be saying over here? And the last question is a Magen Avraham's question on the Shulchan Aruch. We know that Shavuot comes out every single year. The date of Shavuot will always be the 6th of Sivan. 6th of Sivan. And you ask any person off the street, why is the 6th of Sivan special? Well, the 6th of Sivan is when Am Yisrael in the times of the desert, they received the Torah. False. They did not receive the Torah on the 6th of Sivan. The halakha follows the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, that Am Yisrael received the Torah on the 7th of Sivan, not the 6th of Sivan. Amazing. We keep a holiday on the wrong day. The 7th of Sivan is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals Himself to Am Yisrael. He says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, everybody faints, everybody dies, their neshamot leave their bodies, the thunder, the lightning, the singing of the thunder, the singing of the lightning, everything happens on the 7th of Sivan. And here we are on the 6th of Sivan celebrating Zman Matan Toratenu. It's the time of the giving of our Torah. No, it wasn't the time of the giving of the Torah. That was the 7th of Sivan. You're confused. And, okay, in America, at least the 7th of Sivan is also kept. But in Israel, forget about it. There is no keeping of the 7th of Sivan. You're done with the 6th of Sivan, go ahead. You could go driving, you could go back to work, you could do whatever you want. The 7th of Sivan is a regular weekday. You just don't say Tachanun, at least for Sfaradim, but no different than other weekdays. And you say to yourself, well, that's totally missing the date. That's the wrong day. I don't understand. Why are we celebrating the 6th if it happened on the 7th? Pele. It's a big, major problem. Many answers are given to the question, but I want to focus on one answer, and it's based on the Ran, in his Drashot. The Ran quotes a Gemara, a relatively famous Gemara. It's in Masechet Baba Metziah. The Gemara there talks about a dispute between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua and the Chachamim. Rabbi Eliezer was on one side. The rest of the Chachamim, you could include Rabbi Akiva in that, Rabbi Yoshua, Rabban Gamliel, the great, great rabbis, the sages of that generation, all on the other side. What was the machloket about? There was a certain oven that was cut in a certain way, and it was sealed together, glued back together with sand, and it was a question whether it has the laws of impurities, or is it not considered enough to be considered impure. Without getting into too much detail, Rabbi Eliezer ruled this instrument is tahor, is pure. The Chachamim said it is tameh, it is impure. So Rabbi Eliezer was being lenient in this particular instance. The Chachamim were being strict. Rabbi Eliezer, he brought every single Mishnah you could think of. There was no stone he left unturned. Every proof that you could possibly bring to support his position was brought and was rejected by the Chachamim. They did not accept any of his proofs. Okay, what do you do when you can't prove your position anymore? When you argue, you prove, and it's not accepted. So you have to resort to special high-end techniques. And not everybody's privy to these techniques, but Rabbi Eliezer was. And he says, if the halakha is like me, I will prove my position. And this carob tree will prove it for me. and the carob tree, which a carob tree, in order for it to produce fruits in the first place, it needs to have very, very deep roots, very well implanted. It says it takes 70 years for the carob tree to produce fruits, and the carob tree was rooted pretty substantially. This big carob tree goes ahead and uproots itself and moves itself. Some opinions hold up to the distance of 400 amot, which is a vast distance. You're talking about the length of more than a football field of distance. Wow, pretty impressive. I don't know, if I was there, I'd be, Rabbi Eliezer, you got my vote. I'm with you on this one. But the Chachamim weren't fazed. They said that's a wonderful miracle, but you don't bring proof for miracles, and your miracle, as beautiful as it was, and as amazing, as powerful as the miracle was, it makes no difference. The halakha is not going to change. Your proofs are no good, and therefore we reject your position. This oven is tameh. Unfazed by the miracle that Rabbi Eliezer just did. So Rabbi Eliezer himself is not surprised. He's dealt with the Chachamim before. They're a tough bunch. But he says, I'm going to give him a definitive proof that they cannot resist. They cannot refuse. And he says, Amat hamayim yochiach, which means the irrigation ditch will prove my position. And the waters which are flowing, let's say, for example, north to south, started flowing in the opposite direction. Just U-turn and just went right back up. And that was a pretty impressive miracle. Chachamim weren't so impressed. So Chachamim said, that's nice, but nope, it's still tameh. No dice. Still tameh. You can't bring a proof from the emat hamayim. So Rabbi Eliezer resorts to not such great circumstance, but you have to resort to the final thread of hope that he has. And he says, Kotlei Beit HaMikdash yochichu. Let the walls of this Beit Midrash that we are currently in now, let them go ahead and prove that I am correct and that halakha should follow my opinion. And the walls began caving in on the words of Rabbi Eliezer. The walls of the Beit Midrash started caving in. Now you can imagine they're in this Beit Midrash. This could kill, everybody. Rabbi Yoshua gets up and he says, Im talmidei chachamim menatzchim zeh et zeh b'halakha, atem malachim. If great Torah scholars are arguing in what the halakha is, why are you getting involved? He speaks to the walls. And the walls stopped. The honor of Rabbi Yoshua, the walls couldn't cave in. In the honor of Rabbi Eliezer, the walls couldn't return. And the walls just remained there. That's what the Gemara says. Okay, 3 proofs. And Chachamim rejected all 3 of them. Rabbi Eliezer said, there's only one final thing I could do, and this will certainly win over the Chachamim. There's nothing they could say back to this. Bat kol. Let the heavens show that I am correct in my ruling. And a bat kol comes down from Shamayim, a heavenly voice. It says, Malachem le Rabbi Eliezer, she'halakha kemoto bechol makom. Why do you stubbornly argue with Rabbi Eliezer? The halakha follows him in all his circumstances, in every case. In Shamayim, Rabbi Eliezer was right. Okay, so if HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells you that this is the halakha, this is pure, you have to be more frum, more strict than HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yet the Chachamim rejected Rabbi Yoshua, unfazed again. He says, the Torah tells us, Acharei rabim le'atot. You go after the majority. Majority say it's no good. En mashkichim bevat kol. Lo b'shamayim hi. We don't care what they have to say in Shamayim. It's irrelevant to the psak halakha what Shamayim has to say about this case, because the Torah was given to us, and we have determined, the majority has determined that this oven is tameh, and it doesn't matter what they hold in Shamayim. It is utterly irrelevant to the halakha at hand. And you say to yourself, wow, that's a pretty bold position that Rabbi Yoshua is taking upon himself. But, between me and you, who's right? Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Natan asks Eliyahu Navi, what was HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying at that time? Oh, what is HaKadosh Baruch Hu saying? Was he saying, Rabbi Yoshua is so stubborn? Or did he say something else? And Eliyahu Navi says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself uttered the words, Nitzchuni banai, that my children have defeated me. They are correct. Their ruling is correct. Maybe I don't agree with their ruling, but it is correct. And that's something that Dahan points out. He pulls out from this Gemara that HaKadosh Baruch Hu and in Shamayim, they could all agree that the halakha should be that this is allowed. And everybody in Shamayim holds this as clear. That was the intent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu when He brought down the Torah. That they should be mutar, that they should be pure. Yet, if the courts that are on earth, that are in the world that we live in, the Chachamim, the wise sages of our time reject the position of the whole heavenly bodies, of all the angels and of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then the halakha doesn't follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu's position is marginalized. Okay, da'at yachid. But the Rabbim disagree with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And lo b'shamayim hi, the Torah is no longer in the heavens, the Torah was given to us. We can begin to understand based on this, the immense power that we have as Am Yisrael. We say, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us from amongst the nation. Doesn't mean He chose us from amongst the nation. We said that He didn't choose us. We chose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everybody else rejected HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And only Am Yisrael was willing to accept the Torah and to say Na'aseh v'nishma without even hearing what is written in it. True. Very true. But at the same time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could have given us a Torah. He could have given us Xerox copy. And here, read this, understand it, get it straight, and follow it. There you go. It's yours. Go. Your Torah. And then we could have argued, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're right. We're right. We chose you because everybody else rejected the Xerox copy, and we accepted the Xerox copy. And you know what? It's quite possible that if the nations of the world would have said, all right, we don't like this lo tirtzach business, do not commit murder. We don't really like that thing, but we'll accept the Torah anyways. Then maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have given him the Torah. He would have Xeroxed it, and here, this is yours, 613 mitzvot, learn it, study it, know it, follow it. Okay, great. But when Am Yisrael accepted the Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't do that. He didn't just give it to us. He gave us the heart and the mind and the soul of the Torah. He gave us the authority, the ability to overrule HaKadosh Baruch Hu and His own betin, His own heavenly courts, and His own intent and desire can be overruled with the giving of the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't have to do that. There is nothing about us accepting the Torah over the other nations that required HaKadosh Baruch Hu to hand over the Torah in its fullest form, in its authority, in its ability to undermine what HaKadosh Baruch Hu held and what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't have to do. When we say the bracha, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us. But chose us for what? Not to receive the Xerox copy of the Torah. V'natan lanu et Torato. That He gave over the Torah to us. He didn't just go ahead and handed us a copy of the Sefer Torah. He gave over the Torah. When we say that He was a seller and there was a buyer, yes, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was losing. He was losing authority over His own Torah by handing it over to Am Yisrael. It's mind-boggling. You stop and think about the power, the immense power that we have as Am Yisrael, as a nation, to determine halakha. Now, sadly, in these times, you always have to qualify because people misunderstand. What does it mean to give over the Torah? Does that mean whatever we feel like, the flavor of the month? Or we don't feel like Shabbat is important anymore, so you know what? Keep Shabbat the way you understand it. Obviously not. The Torah is never going to change. There's rules that are eternal truths that are never going to change. But within the rules, within the guidelines, within the philosophy and the rules of the Torah, there is discretion and there is decision making. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't give it to every Joe Schmo. He gave it to the Chachamim to decide and to determine what the halakha should be. With proper guidance, with proper ruling, not based on the whims and feelings, but to their discretion. At the end of the day, ultimately, it is the decision of Chachamim that is kovea, that sets the tone of the Torah. With the guidelines and with the rules and regulations, sure. That's the bracha that we're saying. When we say Natananu et Torato, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us. It's our Torah. It's special because it's ours. And the conversation with the angels and Moshe Rabbeinu is perfect. It's beautiful. Moshe Rabbeinu says, we want the Torah. The angels say, why are you giving the Torah to these fallible human beings? Why would you give them the Torah? And their objection wasn't the fact that Am Yisrael should keep the mitzvot. They had no problem. If Am Yisrael wants to keep the mitzvot, if Esav wants to keep the mitzvot, if Ishmael wants to keep the mitzvot, there's no issue with that. But why are you giving them over the Torah? That was the objection. Don't hand over the authority of the Torah to human beings. Keep it in the Shamayim. Keep it in the heavens by us, so we can determine the true intent of what the Torah was. Moshe Rabbeinu argued back, those that fulfill the Torah get the ability to have the discretion of what the Torah what the heart of the Torah is. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's argument. It's not a simple argument. It's pretty deep. It's not so easy to understand, the argument of Moshe Rabbeinu. But the Malachim had certainly a valid position in their understanding. Their position was strong. It was very fortified. But Moshe Rabbeinu responded to them, and they accepted the response of Moshe Rabbeinu. When we talk about in the Haggadah of Pesach, that if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have brought us before Har Sinai, and He wouldn't have given us the Torah, what does it mean He brought us before Har Sinai? He would have given us a copy of the Sefer Torah so that we should learn and study and know. But the giving of the Torah is a whole new entity. What we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for is if we would have just had the Torah as something to study and understand the wisdom of God, Dayenu, that would have been enough. That in itself is a blessing. But now that you didn't just give us a version of the Torah, but you gave us the authority of the Torah, the heart of the Torah, the rendering of decisions of the Torah, that's even greater bracha. That's even more special. That's bacharbanu mikol ha'amim. No other nation would have received that. HaKadosh Baruch Hu elevated us to be able to receive that. And we say, Magen Avraham question, why is it that we celebrate the 6th of Sivan and not the 7th of the Sivan when the Torah was actually given? Why wasn't the Torah given on the 6th of Sivan? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, prepare for 2 days. And Moshe Rabbeinu adds a 3rd day on his own. In HaKadosh Baruch Hu's calculation, the Torah was supposed to be given on the 6th. Moshe Rabbeinu delays, so to speak. He says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't mean 2 days. He reinterpreted the intent of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he added a day on his own. The Gemara calls it an addition that he wasn't commanded to do. Moshe Rabbeinu added his own 3rd day from his own judgment. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I accept. The Torah will not be given on the 6th. It will be given on the 7th, like the ruling of Moshe Rabbeinu. That was the precedent. The fact that the Torah wasn't given on the 6th is the giving over of the Torah. That's why we say, Baruch Asher Kiddishanu Bizman Matan Toratenu, the time of the giving of the Torah. Why do we say the giving of the Torah? Because that's the first point in time where we saw precedent that HaKadosh Baruch Hu handed over, unequivocally, unilaterally handed over the Torah to Am Yisrael and allowed for the decisions of man to determine the ruling of Shammai. Moshe Rabbeinu determined when the Torah was going to be given. So on the 6th of Sivan was the recognition that the Torah was given to Am Yisrael, that we went ahead and we received the Torah. This is the bracha, this is the blessing that we say. And this is really, when we stop and we ponder this and we really, immerse ourselves in what the Torah is teaching us and what this holiday of Shavuot is about, and the giving over of the Torah, we shouldn't say those words lightly. When we say Zman Matan Toratenu, that's a real blessing. That's really something special that we have as a nation, that we carry with us. Specialness and responsibility as well. Separates us from all the other nations. We have what to be proud of. We have what to feel special about as Am Yisrael. And let us embrace this Torah and elevate it and take it with us wherever we go and spread the light of it amongst the other nations. And Be'ez Hashem bizochet to the final Geulah b'meira ve'amenu v'nomar amen.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.